You remember it clear as day. The Berenstein Bears, a genie movie starring Sinbad, a monocled Monopoly man, but none of it ever existed. Tonight, we unravel the phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect, where mass false memories leave entire generations questioning reality.
What you are about to hear is believed to be real, based on witness accounts, testimonies, and public record. This is terrifying and true.
All across the globe, people report the same unsettling experience. Memories of things that never happened. A children's book spelled wrong. A movie that never existed. A quote remembered by millions that was never spoken. They call it the Mandela Effect, shared false memories that defy explanation. Is it a simple failure of memory? Or are we experiencing something far more mysterious? Perhaps a glimpse into an altered reality. Tonight we examine the eerie science, the speculation, and the chilling possibilities. Right after this. Imagine having a clear memory of something that never actually happened. Perhaps you vividly recall a childhood storybook being called the Berenstein Bears, only to discover every copy is titled Berenstein Bears, an unfamiliar spelling. Or you'd swear you once watched a movie named Shazaam, starring comedian Sinbad as a genie, yet no such film exists. These unsettling moments, which feel like glitches in reality, have an equally eerie name: the Mandela Effect. This term describes the strange phenomenon of mass false memories, instances where large groups of people share the same exact misremembered detail or event with absolute conviction that it's true. The effect's namesake comes from countless people insisting they remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, even recalling news clips and a widow's speech, when in fact, Mandela lived until 2013. The Mandela Effect's story begins with a chill of déjà vu at a sci-fi and paranormal conference in 2009. Writer and self-described paranormal researcher Fiona Broome was chatting with fellow attendees when she realized they all shared an oddly specific memory. Former South African President Nelson Mandela dying in prison during the 1980s. Broome herself vividly remembered Mandela's funeral on TV and even recalled a heartfelt speech by his widow. Events that never actually occurred. In reality, Mandela was released from prison in 1990 and passed away much later in 2013. Stunned that so many unrelated people could remember the same non-existent event in such detail, Broome sensed she had stumbled onto something bizarre. She then coined the aforementioned term, Mandela Effect, and launched a website inviting others to share similar experiences. The response was explosive. Hundreds of people began posting about other shared false memories that left them questioning their own reality. As story after story poured in, from misremembered movie lines to geography that felt off, the Mandela Effect went viral. It quickly spread beyond Broom's sight and entered popular culture discourse, even inspiring a 2019 science fiction film titled The Mandela Effect. Importantly, Broom initially avoided pinning down a cause for these eerie collective slip-ups, but as discussions grew, she openly mused about paranormal possibilities. Being a paranormal enthusiast, Broom favored fun, speculative explanations, hinting that perhaps parallel realities or shifts in the timeline were responsible for the discrepancies. In her view, these were like science fiction scenarios come to life. However, mainstream scientists had a different idea. Maybe the culprit wasn't a cosmic glitch after all, but rather the fallible and fascinating machinery of human memory. A still from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Many fans misquote this scene by remembering Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father," a line that is never actually spoken in the film. The Mandela Effect manifests in countless examples that often leave people feeling spooked and disoriented. Here are some of the most famous instances where reality doesn't quite match the collective memory. The Berenstein Bears. Many who grew up reading the beloved children's book about a family of bears are adamant the series was called the Berenstein Bears, spelled with an E-I-N. In reality, it has always been the Berenstein Bears, with an A-I-N, named after its authors, Stan and Jan Berenstein. Discovering this one-letter difference has sent countless readers into a frenzy, convinced Berenstein is what they saw on those covers as kids. Shazaam, the movie that never was. A large community of people swear they remember a light-hearted 1990s family film called Shazaam, starring comedian Sinbad as a wish-granting genie. Some even recount distinct scenes or VHS box art, but there was no such movie. Ever. The closest real film is Shazaam from 1996, which featured Shaquille O'Neal as a genie. How did so many people independently generate the same vivid but false memory of Shazaam? We'll explore theories soon, but this example remains one of the most mind-boggling Mandela effects on record. In the realm of film media, it's not only the imagined existence of films, but also quotes from some of our most iconic movies. Iconic lines from films often lodge in our memories, sometimes incorrectly. A classic example comes from Star Wars, which we mentioned earlier. In the climactic scene, Darth Vader reveals his identity to Luke Skywalker. Most fans hear Vader's voice saying, "Luke, I am your father." In reality, the line was, "No, I am your father." Listen to the film and you'll find Luke is never said, yet The mistaken line has been repeated in impressions, t-shirts, and pop culture for decades, cementing itself as the truth in many minds. Similarly, Snow White's evil queen never actually says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall." In the original 1937 Disney film, she addresses her magic mirror with the line, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?" Somehow, the alliterative "mirror, mirror" version took hold in public memory, perhaps assisted by adaptations and parodies, and to this day people feel a jolt of disbelief when they learn the mirror was magic all along. These kinds of Mandela Effect examples abound. "Hello, Clarice" was never spoken in The Silence of the Lambs. Clarice's greeting is different, and the line, "If you build it, they will come," from Field of Dreams is actually, "He will come," referring to one character and not a crowd. In each case, the incorrect quote is remembered far more widely than the real one. A creepy reminder that even our most confident memories can be false. Those are just a few of the better-known Mandela effects, but there are many, many more. People have reported everything from geographic misplacements. Some swear New Zealand used to be north of Australia, not southeast, to altered names of products, Jif peanut butter being remembered as Jiffy, which never existed as a brand, to entire historical details that don't match the records. What's consistent is that these memories tend to be shared by a large number of unrelated people. It's one thing for you to misremember something, but when thousands of others confidently remember it the same wrong way, it feels like reality itself might be bending. Before we get carried away with paranormal explanations, let's dig into what science knows about memory and how so many people could misremember the same thing. From a cognitive psychology standpoint, there's nothing supernatural about the Mandela Effect. Human memory is fallible and prone to quirks that can affect many people in the same way. Far from a perfect recording device, our brains reconstruct memories out of bits and pieces, and in the process they can and do make errors. In fact, each time you recall something, your brain may subtly alter it before storing it again. Over time, these alterations can accumulate so that your recollection drifts further from reality. Memory researchers have long documented phenomena like false memories and misinformation effects. The Mandela Effect appears to be a spectacular instance of collective false memory, likely arising from normal brain tendencies that we all share. Psychologists highlight several key mechanisms that help explain these shared memory distortions. Schema and association. Our mind uses schemas, patterns of related knowledge, to fill in gaps in memory. We tend to remember these the way we expect them to be. For example, people might assume the Monopoly man wears a monocle because a monocle fits the image of a posh, early 20th century tycoon. In a 2022 study on the visual Mandela Effect, researchers indeed found that many visual misrememberings, like the monocle that never was, stem from our brain's schema-driven expectations. In other words, we remember a detail that makes sense, even if it wasn't truly there, because it aligns with our mental image. This study, conducted at the University of Chicago, confirmed that consistent false memories of certain images are a real, measurable phenomenon across people. Interestingly, the scholars concluded that no single explanation fits all cases. Some false memories arise from schema or expectations, others from one version of an image being more intrinsically memorable than another, meaning each Mandela effect may have its own mix of causes. Still, the take-home message is that our memory tends to edit reality to fit our preconceived notions, and if many people share that same notion, they'll likely misremember in the same way. Confabulation is a technical term for the brain's habit of fabricating details in order to fill memory gaps without the person realizing it. Confabulation isn't lying. It happens subconsciously. Your brain wants memories to form a coherent story, so when bits are missing, it may unintentionally invent plausible details in order to plug the holes. Over time, these invented details feel just as real as the true information. For instance, someone recalling the Berenstein Bears might think, it was spelled like Steen, wasn't it? Because many common surnames, Einstein, Frankenstein, end in Stein, and their brain plugs in that familiar pattern. If lots of people's brains do this, they all confidently misremember the spelling together. It's worth noting, confabulation tends to increase with age, which might be why many Mandela Effect examples involve childhood popular culture. People recalling things from decades ago might be more likely to have filled in gaps over time. Then there's the misinformation effect. Our memories are vulnerable to post-event information. Simply hearing or reading a wrong detail can implant a false memory of it. Psychologists have shown that if someone subtly suggests an incorrect fact, even with a single word choice, it can alter how others recall that event. In the context of the Mandela Effect, once a false idea starts circulating, such as it was mirror, mirror on the wall in Snow White, it can spread like wildfire and contaminate many people's recollections. A person might not even remember where they heard the incorrect version first. They just internalize it as what they remember. Eyewitness testimony studies demonstrate how easily memories can be swayed by external suggestions. In mass media and online discussions, a single confidently stated false memory can ripple out to affect thousands of other people's memories. Then there's priming and suggestion. Related to misinformation, priming is when our brains are prepared to perceive or remember something in a certain way due to prior cues. If you ask one group of people, "Did you see the black car speed past?" and another group, "Did you see the black car?" The first phrasing suggests there definitely was a speeding black car, and those people may later insist they saw it, even if it wasn't there. With the Mandela Effect, collective memories can be shaped by how questions or ideas are posed. For example, a forum post that says, "Who else remembers the Oscar Mayer Bologna logo having an E instead of an A in Mayer?" primes readers to search their memory for that spelling. And many then feel like they do indeed recall it, reinforcing the idea. Our brains are highly suggestible, especially when a question presupposes a detail. Then there are shared cultural influences. Many Mandela Effect false memories can be traced to common sources or influences that set us all on the same wrong track. A parody or reference in popular culture can override the original memory. For instance, Sally Field's Oscar acceptance speech is often misquoted as, "You like me, you really like me," even by those who never saw it live. Why? Likely because actor Jim Carrey parodied that incorrect line in The Mask, and his version stuck in people's heads. Likewise, the line, "Mirror, mirror on the wall," was the title of a popular Snow White adaptation, and is just catchier to say. So that's what got absorbed into collective memory. These kinds of media echoes mean large numbers of people are exposed to the same misleading version of an event or quote, resulting in the same misremembering. Even logos and images can be culturally primed. We've all seen generic depictions of overflowing fruit baskets, hence the false memory of a cornucopia in the Fruit of the Looms logo, or cartoon aristocrats with monocles, leading us to add a monocle to Mr. Monopoly, as we pointed out. In essence, our brains are pattern-seeking machines that often substitute logical guesses for missing facts, and our memories are socially influenced by what others say. So it's not a huge leap to realize that if the conditions are right, lots of people will form the same false memory. As one research paper aptly noted, examples of Mandela Effect are likely, quote, explained in terms of the fallibility of human memory, rather than alternate realities. One study even found that 76% of people made some kind of mistake when asked to recall details. Memory errors are the rule, not the exception. Most of the time, we don't notice these errors. The Mandela Effect only comes to light when a critical mass of people compare notes and realize they all remember something else in unison. And in the age of the internet, that's exactly what's happening. If faulty human memory is the tinder, the internet is the spark that has set the Mandela Effect ablaze in modern culture. In earlier decades, you might have privately misremembered a detail or two. Perhaps you'd even joke with a friend about a line from a movie and discover one of you was wrong. But today, we have instant global connectivity to find countless others with the same memory quirks, and this connectivity greatly amplifies the Mandela Effect. Online communities allow people to share their eerie memory discrepancies and validate each other. A false memory that might have died out as a personal quirk can gain immortality once posted on Reddit, YouTube, or a blog, where it then snowballs. As each person chimes in, "I remember that too," it reinforces the conviction that the memory must be true. Psychologists describe this as an information cascade. Once an idea catches on, especially a surprising or mysterious one, it can spread exponentially through social networks. A large analysis of over 100,000 news stories on Twitter found that hoaxes and rumors spread significantly faster and more widely than truthful news by about 70%, driven by real users, not bots, sharing the information. In the Mandela Effect's case, the hoax isn't an intentional fake story, but a collective misconception. Still, the principle holds. False ideas often outpace the truth in our information ecosystem. The Sinbad's Shazaam episode is a perfect example of the internet's role. By most accounts, that false memory began as a discussion online, where one person casually mentioned the Sinbad Genie movie that they recalled. Others reading it searched their own memories, and many said, "Yes, I remember that too." In trying to resolve the discrepancy, seeing as no record of the film exists, yet so many insist on it, people collaborated, each adding imagined details. A remembered scene here, a fragment of a poster there, inadvertently crafting a richer false narrative. This accumulated detail made the collective memory feel even more convincing. A few coincidental real events, like Sinbad once hosting a TV marathon in a genie costume, or old VHS tapes of Shazaam being conflated with Sinbad's image, gave just enough plausibility that the internet tale took on a life of its own. Before long, Shazaam was a legend that tens of thousands of people remembered, thanks largely to message boards and later YouTube videos discussing it. What we see is that the repetition is power. Studies show that the more times you recall or recount a memory, even incorrectly, the more confident you become in it, while actual accuracy often drops. Online, these false memories get repeated and shared ad infinitum, which for many converts a flimsy recollection into an unshakable certainty. Beyond spreading specific instances, the internet has made the Mandela Effect a cultural phenomenon in its own right. There are thriving forums like the r/Mandela Effect subreddit and social media trends where people actively hunt for new Mandela effects in everyday life. It's become a kind of crowdsourced detective game. Spot something that doesn't match your memory and post about it. Everything from corporate logos to famous paintings has been scrutinized by online communities looking for evidence that reality isn't what it used to be. It's no coincidence that this phenomenon has grown in the digital age. The internet era is a perfect breeding ground, with its rapid mass sharing of both information as well as misinformation. The cultural impact goes further. The Mandela Effect concept has penetrated mainstream awareness. News outlets including CNN and Psychology Today have run pieces about it, and it often sparks trending conversations whenever a new striking example hits TikTok or Twitter. In a way, it's modern folklore, a collection of strange tales we collectively tell about how our world isn't quite what we thought. There's even an International Mandela Effect Conference, or IMEC, that held events in 2019 and 2020, bringing together enthusiasts and researchers intrigued by these collective memory glitches. Attendees swap stories of their strongest Mandela effects and debate what's behind them. The fact that a relatively recent internet meme has formal conferences and scholarly interest shows how much it has truly struck a chord. It speaks to a deep curiosity, and perhaps unease, about the reliability of our shared knowledge. After all, if we can misremember something as basic as the name of a childhood book series or a line from a famous movie, what else might we collectively be mistaken about? The Mandela Effect has thus become a cultural touchstone, inviting everyone, skeptics, scientists, and supernatural believers alike, to question the fidelity of memory and the nature of reality. Not everyone is satisfied with false memories as the only explanation. The Mandela Effect's eerie nature has led to a range of speculative theories, some fun, some far-fetched, proposing that something bigger is going on than just human error. These ideas venture into the realm of quantum physics, science fiction, and conspiracy. And while not supported by scientific evidence, they add to the mystique of the Mandela Effect. One speculative explanation is that we're experiencing bleed-throughs from parallel universes. In a hypothetical multiverse, countless alternate realities exist, side by side, some almost identical to ours, but with minor differences. Could Mandela Effect memories be leftovers from realities where things have happened differently? The notion is as unfalsifiable as it is intriguing. The most popular fringe theory posits alternate realities or parallel universes. In this view, the Mandela Effect might be evidence that multiple timelines or dimensions have somehow converged or shifted. People speculate that perhaps we or our consciousness occasionally slip into a closely neighboring universe with a slightly different history, or that two timelines merge and left some of us with memories from timeline A, while we now live in timeline B. Those who feel certain that reality has changed love to point out this idea. After all, if infinite parallel worlds exist, a concept entertained in some interpretations of quantum physics, it's tempting to blame a collective memory discrepancy on timeline trouble, rather than human fallibility. For example, they'd say maybe in another universe Nelson Mandela did in fact die in prison in the 1980s, and some of us happened to experience or inherit memories from that world. Or there really was a Sinbad genie movie in a parallel timeline, but not in this one. As wild as it sounds, this theory can't be definitively disproven. By its nature, if alternate realities were bleeding into ours, we would only have the memories as clues. The unfalsifiability gives the idea a certain allure. You can't prove we haven't hopped between realities, so who's to say it's impossible? For many, it injects a dose of cosmic mystery into everyday life, turning a simple memory mix-up into a hint that the universe is far stranger than we think. It's essentially a glitch in the matrix hypothesis, the feeling that a glitch in reality itself, not just in our minds, is responsible. Researchers and skeptics, of course, largely attribute the Mandela Effect to memory errors, not literal universe jumping. But that hasn't stopped imaginative theories from flourishing online. Some conspiracy-minded individuals have gone further to speculate about what might be causing these supposed reality shifts. One theory points a finger at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. The idea, born from internet forums and YouTube videos, is that high-energy physics experiments messing with subatomic particles could be inadvertently slicing open holes between universes or altering our own timeline. This theory gained so much traction that actual CERN scientists have felt compelled to address it. Dr. Clara Nellist, a physicist with the LHC, famously responded to TikTok users who blamed CERN for things like the spelling of double-stuff Oreos, as one viral Mandela effect involves people thinking it was always double-stuffed Oreos. In a humorous rebuttal, she reassured the public that no, their particle collider isn't changing brand names on a whim. The discrepancy is simply a product label quirk, not a quantum catastrophe. As one science journalist quipped, the Mandela Effect is a, quote, highly interesting conspiracy theory, in part because it is verifiably real, in terms of the false memories themselves. But it becomes a conspiracy theory when people suggest things like CERN creating, quote, portals to ultimate dimensions to explain it. Other speculative explanations people have floated include time travel, e.g., perhaps someone went back in time and altered small things in history, causing retconned reality that only a few remember the old way. And of course, simulation theory, the idea that we live in a programmed reality akin to a computer simulation, and the Mandela Effect represents small updates or glitches in the code. These notions are firmly in the realm of science fiction. There's no evidence for them, and they're not taken seriously by the scientific community. But they illustrate how profoundly the Mandela Effect captures the imagination. When confronted with a creepy collective misremembering, it's almost human nature to wonder, could there be a bizarre, unseen cause at play? It's important to label these ideas for what they are: speculation and creative brainstorming, not scientific consensus. Occam's razor would suggest that the simpler explanation, that human memory simply isn't perfect, is far more likely than believing entire universes are colliding to make us recall a fake movie. And indeed, memory researchers and cognitive scientists overwhelmingly explain the Mandela Effect in terms of normal psychological processes. That being said, the Mandela Effect occupies a unique spot between the mundane and the fantastical. On one hand, it's a testament to the quirks of memory and perception, a reminder that our brains can be confident and wrong at the same time, and that groupthink plus memory flaws can create compelling illusions. On the other hand, it carries an almost spooky vibe that invites people to dream up what-if scenarios about parallel worlds or simulated realities. Part of the enduring charm of the Mandela Effect is that it lets ordinary folks play with big philosophical questions. It's like a mental X-Files. We want to believe, even if it is just for fun. Ultimately, no matter how tempting the far-out theories may be, the evidence strongly favors the explanation that the Mandela Effect arises from a fallible human memory coupled with social and cognitive influences. We don't need parallel universes to have shared false memories. We just need lots of people with similar brains exposed to the same media and cultural references, all prone to the same types of memory errors. The real story is not any defect in reality, but the fascinating defects in our own mental record keeping. As one writer put it, quote, "The Mandela Effect is more likely a product of the holes in our memory than a rip in the fabric of space and time." Yet, acknowledging the scientific explanation doesn't make the experience of the Mandela Effect any less intriguing. There's something undeniably eerie about realizing your recollection and reality don't match, and even eerier when dozens of others insist on the same alternate memory. It teaches a humble lesson. Memory is malleable. We take for granted that what we remember is true, our personal truth, but the Mandela Effect throws that into doubt. It encourages a healthy skepticism about our own certainty. If nothing else, it's a conversation starter that bridges science and mystery. In the end, the Mandela Effect invites us to marvel at the quirks of collective memory. It's both an intellectual puzzle and a touch of modern folklore, reminding us that the line between reality and perception can blur in the most curious ways. The next time you distinctly recall something that history says never happened, you might feel a slight chill. But you'll also know you're not alone. Whether you lean toward psychological explanations or entertain the idea of parallel worlds, the Mandela Effect is a fascinating mirror held up to our minds, reflecting how fallible, creative, and intriguing human memory can be. And for many, that little whisper of, "What if reality is not what it seems?" is what makes the Mandela Effect so irresistibly spooky and satisfying. I myself, as a millennial, do recall the Berenstein Bears, although that one didn't shock me so much. I vaguely recalled a cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom logo, but again, I never really paid attention. But the one that still bothers me to this day, that may bother you as well, is I am certain without a shadow of a doubt that I saw commercials of Ed McMahon representing Publishers Clearinghouse giving away money to contest winners. And I can't find a single shred of evidence that ever occurred. Terrifying and True is narrated by Enrique Couto. It's executive produced by Rob Fields and Bobbletopia.com. And produced by Dan Wilder. With original theme music by Ray Mattis. If you have a story you think we should cover on Terrifying and True, send us an email at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. And if you want to support us for as little as $1 a month, go to weeklyspooky.com/join. Your support for as little as $1 a month keeps the show going. And speaking of, I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay a little bit more to hear their name at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Kate and Lulu, Jessica Fuller, Mike Eschewey, Jenny Green, Amber Hansford, Karen Wiemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much, and thank you for listening. We'll see you all right here next time on Terrifying and True.